Go West Young Nuts was our first attempt at a sequel short film to The Darn Good Escape. At that point, we had no idea we were going to be making a TV show out of these little sequels, hence we didn't try too hard on this movie, nor did we bother to finish it.
We knew this episode was going to be very challenging to film, so we decided to let it take a very relaxed, comedy, nonsensical, slapstick sort of vibe.
Ready, action! One of the main reasons I really wanted to give this episode a chance was because it was really special to have all our cousins in an episode together. It's really a one family cast, aside from the TV show regulars. I mean, we grew up with these guys. They're like siblings who happen to live in another state. And it helps capture a little of the lifetime of memories we have as one wild, happy Brennan clan.
I can't.
And now, for all posterity, we've caught a glimpse of their wild personalities in our TV show.
Our story starts in Waycross, Georgia, where we hear that 3 young nuts have escaped from an insane asylum. The 3 young nuts being Agent, Conriac, and Stevia. After the 3 escaped, they decided to stay in a safe house for a little while. Now Sheila, hearing about this and actually having an underground railroad business where she saves nuts, decides to go find them in Georgia and then bring them back to a safe haven where nuts can stay in an undisclosed location.
Freeze!
Secret Agent's name says it all. She thinks she's a secret agent. In a way, she's kind of like the leader of the 3 young nuts, and she's very confident in her secret agent abilities and her secret gadgets that are actually just shoes and watches. In the end, she actually does end up using one of them to communicate with Super Steve, of all people. She saves the day by using her watch to communicate with Super Steve so he can lead the wardens away from them so they can land safely in Albuquerque.
Just fly out.
Negative. This vehicle is not equipped for that type of evasive action.
Along with her motivation and confident in her abilities and gadgets, she's also very suspicious of other people and always ready for a situation where she'll have to break out her karate skills or something like that.
Aren't you supposed to come to the door from the inside? Casey is such a character in of herself. Agent really isn't typecast. There's not much of the Buzz Lightyear about Casey in real life, but she portrayed the character we gave her just because she could. And of course, she added a touch of her own wacky self to the character as well.
This sucks.
Casey has always been my most beloved best buddy, my troublemaking, mischievous partner in crime as far back as both of us can remember. And the hardest thing about acting alongside her was that, as usual, we were just having way too much fun.
Hypochondriac McQueen, or just Conriac, is a sickly boy who always thinks he's gonna get hurt.
I'm gonna get hurt.
He's very dependent on others, but is forced to become independent because no one will really help him with the pain that he says he has.
I don't feel too good. I think I'm gonna throw up.
But in the end, he actually ends up using his sickness against the bad guys. He gives one of his crutches to Sheila so she can help him beat the heck fire out of them. And also, in the words of Sturgis, he teaches the bad guys the meaning of the word sickness. So, I mean, that's gotta count for something.
Connor, as a little kid, was extremely camera shy. And this was really frustrating to us because he also happened to be one of the funniest and cutest kids you could ever imagine. It always used to be like pulling teeth to get any of his hilarious antics captured on film. So we were really surprised that he was willing to play Conriac that summer, and even more surprised that he was such a darn good actor.
And I got an earring.
And you'll see this September, as the sneak peek at the end of the episode shows, that Conriac is not the only time Connor Brennan will be seen in the Darn Good universe.
Perfect time for the fondue to spill.
Oh, Stevia. What to say about Stevia? Stevia is kind of like a health nut and a sweet tooth that just kind of...
Movie already over? I didn't get to finish the popcorn.
She's always keeping these weird foods in her makeup bag or in her socks. And if you ask her for something, she'll more than likely give it to you. It's anything weird especially. For her, food is a #1 priority. Every single subject has to revolve around food, and separating her from that for 1 minute would probably kill her.
Bailey is the baby of the family of us 13 cousins. She's the youngest. I remember being very frustrated when I was about 11 or 12 years old and she was a baby that she didn't want me to hold her constantly and cuddle her constantly. It's kind of cute to see her as like a beautiful 13-year-old or 12-year-old in the movie. And the role of Stevia, I just like, it's the perfect name, right? You have to have a Steve. Stevia is one of those strange, healthy, alternative, foodie option things. And there you go. We had Bailey stuff her face the whole time.
Bailey is one of the funniest people I know. And even though we put her in a role that was kind of generic and random, she made Stevia really seem like the type of character that everybody's gonna get along with.
The Thigh Man, the bad guy. He was said to be a nut that was caught selling wardens to a movie company.
I'm just doing my job. Trust me.
He's a mysterious, suave informant that was said to be waiting in Albuquerque for them, so that when they get there, he could kind of look over them, take care of them in the safe haven. And that's exactly what he is. He was there with his buddies Mo and Joe to jump the nuts and send them back to an insane asylum.
Oh, that was perfect.
Am I good right here?
Yeah.
Matthias is a really good actor. When he played the Thigh Man, he had no context for what the storyline was about or what was even going on. We just stuck him in front of the camera and told him to be evil. And though he has very little screen time in the episode, he does kind of give you this depth of character just by his facial expressions alone.
Sturgis, look at his eyes.
All he knew was that he was supposed to be a bad guy, and that's just about as opposite the real Matthias as you can get. He is the kindest, most generous guy you could ever imagine. But when we arrived in Albuquerque after that particular road trip, his crazy girl cousins asked him to be a bad guy, and so of course he was happy to oblige.
This is Thigh Man from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And just like Stevia said, there's nothing worse than a rotten nut. But when they finally get there, they realize that he's actually sane, and his whole plan was to kidnap them when they get there and bring them all back to an insane asylum so he could cash in that sweet money. I think. What? I don't know. I think that's what he wanted, right?
Mo and Joe the Wardens weren't supposed to be characters that the audience really notices.
Okay.
They were just supposed to be your average wardens, like any others that we've encountered thus far in the DGU.
Helpful Warden Bob.
But our cousins, Joe and Ben, are just too classic to not notice.
They're kind of like the Abbott and Costello, who are just bad at their job. There's the dumb wardens, the klutzes, who are always bumping into each other. In the end, they are said to actually be working for Thigh Man. They were there to help Thigh Man capture the nuts and bring them back to confinement. But as we see, their plan doesn't really get carried out.
Oh, wait, hold everything. Warden Mo and Warden Joe are entering the ring. They're neck and neck as they trip over the threshold.
Wait,
Little do they know what's waiting them on this side of the fence.
wow.
Conriac will show them the meaning of the word sick.
You'll never take us alive!
Who's that?
Let them get a pretty close lead, Mom, so I can see their faces a little bit.
It was hilarious to get our cousins Joey and Ben in the movie. They're handsome, intelligent dudes, but we had them play the henchmen, and they did a darn good job. We didn't give them any context.
Okay, so Joey, this was Matthias' idea. We're gonna do this. We're gonna go down Morningside. We're gonna drive east.
We just told them to jump in their truck and chase us around Albuquerque, and they were great. And they cracked us up with their ad-libbing.
Sorry, we should.
When Riley appeared in this episode, we didn't actually know he would go on to play Marlon McQueen. We had a concept idea for his character to be a supporting role in a later episode. We had no idea he'd go on to be the star of the pilot episode itself. But it was great we were able to salvage this little clip where he appears in it.
I could just feel it.
In summer of 2017, we took a road trip from Georgia to New Mexico with our cousins, the Brennan family.
So our cousins Riley, Casey, Connor, and Bailey had moved out to Waycross, Georgia from Albuquerque, which is where all the Brennan family grew up. And that summer was the first time they were going to return to Albuquerque for a visit. So we flew out to Atlanta and met them there and took the cross-country drive with them, and of course decided we had to document it by making a movie.
When we started assembling the TV show for 2021, we weren't sure we wanted to use Go West Young Nuts as one of the 12 feature episodes. There was a lot of it that had never been completed, and we couldn't really go back and fix that. Some of the actors have changed a little since 2017. So we had to come up with a way to save our plot, but with our current resources and cast.
There was a lot of salvaging that needed to be done in this movie. And we only had little portions of the plot to work with, and so for a while we weren't sure it could actually be released as an episode. So, Deb and James, our 2 writers, returned to the drawing board and started coming up with ways to patch up the holes.
Hello? Sturgis? I need to talk to Sheila. It's an emergency!
Fixing this movie wasn't too difficult. The footage that was filmed in 2017 was unfinished and needed some serious construction. We were actually able to fix the lack of footage problem by adding in phone call scenes all around with Barking Steve. That way, the intensity of how important his call was increasing more and more by the call. By the end, he ends up calling Sturgis instead, and she picks up the phone and she explains to him the entire fight climax that is occurring just then. By adding in the phone call scenes, we were able to finish the movie without showing the footage that wasn't actually filmed in the final climax.
I was kind of afraid that this episode would have a little bit of a home video vibe to it, but since we decided to give each episode of the TV show its own genre of film, we figure it's okay to take a little detour and make a family flick in more ways than one, and kind of make the hodgepodge aura of it serve the theme, as opposed to letting it end up on the cutting room floor.
Riley, do the thing where you try to wiggle your ears.
Working?
No.
Since 2017, the 9 cousins featured in this episode have grown up a little, and life makes it harder for us to see each other as often. But we hope that the happy memories and the family ties that got caught here on film are a proof that no matter where life takes us, we'll always be one unstoppable gang of best friends.
In the sky, open up your weary eyes, follow the voices, hear the sound, find your truth, your home.